As wages continue to fall in real value, today 40% of American families identify their life standard as low middle class or lower. And the United States is rapidly losing the two assets that offer some hope that we might eventually build that truly democratic society we want to believe we lived in. A strong middle class and a strong public education for all. In the last numbers from the National Center of Educational Statistics from 2010 to 2011, the number of public schools diminished as the number of charter and private schools increases. And we know that this trend is continuing, and you have the numbers in front of you. One aspect of justice that the March on Washington was meant to achieve was the end of school desegregation. But the present-day closing of public schools and the increased number of charter and private schools represent a different form of segregation, because the amount of funds and support that goes to school serving the children who are living in poverty, the children who most need and deserve those funds, depends on these numbers. Now, while we need to be concerned on how to change the social conditions that affect us and our students, we also must focus on what happens daily in our classrooms. I will later return to focus on exploring the connections between social reality and the work we do as educators. But for a moment, let's think about the classrooms. Classrooms have the potential to be protected spaces for children. Within that space, teachers are the responsible adult, the ones in charge. In spite of the constraints that may be pressing in from outside the classroom, we as teachers still have a valuable degree of freedom and power. There is creative power in everything a teacher does. The image we project, the message that is contained in our tone of voice, the way we look into students' eyes, the comments we make, the comments we avoid, the questions we ask, the reflections we invite. As teachers, we influence our classroom climate each day. When we're able to walk into the classroom projecting enthusiasm and alertness, serenity, assurance, we offer the possibility of connection and success. There is power in a teacher's voice. The way in which we simply pronounce a student's name can convey a message of care, of appreciation, of joy, of positive expectations. Or it can also convey a message of impatience, of boredom, of annoyance, or indifference. There is power in how we as teachers organize the day. We can choose to take a few minutes at the beginning of the class, at any age or grade level. Believe me, I did this in my doctoral classes too, with a gift to the students. A poem, a song, a saying, the sharing of a personal anecdote, a moment of reflection. It is in our power to do this as teachers, and it conveys the message that true learning is taking place. No matter how full our schedules may be, these few minutes can help us connect with our students and focus our intentions for the rest of the day. It is also in our power as teachers to ensure that the questions we ask are thought-provoking, that we are encouraging dialogue, that we are recognizing students' lives and experience as valuable sources, as funds of knowledge. As teachers, we can choose to present information as content to be learned, or we can choose to construct knowledge together with our students. A knowledge that will include the information we want to convey, but will not end there, because it is enriched through dialogue. Dialogue where students compare and contrast this new knowledge being presented with their own previous experience, where we encourage students to reflect upon the meaning of what they're learning, to explore and understand conflicts and its roots, to discover that there are always alternatives, to realize that learning can be empowering both in the present moment and in the future, that learning should help us become better human beings, more able, more capable, stronger, more truthful. None of this is outside our possibilities as teachers. It does take some time and effort to awaken students' abilities to reflect. But once they are engaged in the process, they will continue to do this spontaneously whenever new content is presented. And we hope that this means that they will continue to do this for the rest of their lives. As Yeats poetically suggested when he wrote, "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lightning of a fire." One of the great disservices in education today consists of curriculum and educational plans and materials that are written as if all the weeks of the year were equal. They are not. Time must be allotted at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of different processes, for students to develop certain skills and habits that will become easier with time. Time is always such a problem when we talk about education. I don't have time to do this. Well, time well invested at the beginning of a process will mean later accelerated results. But of course, for this to happen, our goals need to be clear. If our goal is not to give the students cut flowers, but instead to teach them how to grow their own plants, as John Gardner reminded us, we may need to reconsider how much transmission of information without the corresponding critical analysis we still allow in our classrooms. I am not recommending that we stop providing factual information. What I am recommending is that we focus on how to use information to generate true learning. To light the fire, to contribute to our shared human future, our goals as educators must include the education of the whole human being. As Maria Montessori reminded us with her characteristic clarity, her words from over half a century ago continue to be relevant today. If education is always to be conceived along the same antiquated lines of a mere transmission of knowledge, there is little to be hoped from it in the bettering of humanity's future. For what is the use of transmitting knowledge if the individual's total development lags behind? This development of the whole human being includes not only helping students construct meaning by connecting new knowledge to what they already know, not encouraging the practice of critical reflection, as powerful and necessary as those objectives are. It also must include the universal values that are so frequently neglected, as the Dalai Lama laments when he says, "I have always had this view about the modern education system. We pay attention to brain development, but the development of warm-heartedness we take for granted." Or in Cesar Chavez's words, when he says real education should consist of drawing the goodness and the best out of our own students. What better books can there be than the book of humanity? There are some people who, like Oscar Wilde, may believe that nothing that is essential can be taught. Yet, as the saying goes, attitudes are caught, not taught. It's worth remembering that our personal example influences those around us all the time. And I dare say that personal example, when authentic, is the most powerful of all pedagogies.